So, I have a quick question to ask. In all of your time on YouTube thus far, do you happen to recognize this track? Or do you catch yourself hearing this song in recent memory? Besides both songs being royalty-free or free of copyright claiming, both tracks, to many people at least, also fall into the lo-fi genre. Lo-fi or low fidelity has taken the current generation by storm, integrating and spreading through multiple facets of pop culture today, from a few random streams and uploads on YouTube to being referenced in premiere TV shows and advertisements. I'd personally be surprised if you haven't come across even one of these types of tracks. And while its cultural boom and general consensus happens to be net positive, I stumbled upon a dilemma that's really been bugging me for a while now. I've noticed a back and forth on who should be credited as the forefather of this genre and who's responsible for its current sound, but I'm personally confused with this approach. And after looking at a few videos, listening to a few albums, and generally familiarizing myself a little bit with the scene in question, this genre is way more convoluted than I thought. You'd think that beats like these would have a simple backstory, but apparently not. Not just in regards to its origin, but even its defining factors have become more ambiguous to the enthusiast conversation, and I want to at least try and make sense of it all. So in this video, I want to discuss lo-fi, my initial exposure to the subgenre, the debate on its originators, as well as the conundrum on its current state by enthusiasts of the genre. Because despite the beat playing right now, these revelations were a lot more intense than you may think. So without further ado, let's get into it. I didn't want to start this off on a bad note, but I have a confession to make. I hated 2018. Some may be wondering as to how one could hate a year as ripe and flourishing as 2018, giving us energetic booms on the internet and pop culture in general. All you need to know is that latter half was, let's just say, trash. I was going through it, I'll tell you that much. Towards the winter season, I decided to explore a set of different avenues to soothe my nerves a little bit. And by that, I mean just watching a bunch of cartoons. Being Puppy Cat. I started the first episode, but that would have been my first rewatch at the time, and I really didn't feel like getting depressed at that ending again. If you know, you know. Naruto Part 1. I started the dub, the Toonami version to be exact, and stopped when Zabuza showed up. I've since finished Part 1 and am currently on Shippuden. Someone I know watching this has pushed me for the longest to finish Shippuden, and yes, I'm still on episode 50. I promise I'll get around to it. I just had to finish these first. I'm sorry. The point was, it was a time of improving my media diet a little bit. Fast forward to December, and after a winter break starting to get assignments again, I decided to go on YouTube to find some music to put on the background of completing a school project. And it just so happened to be this live stream that started sticking to my recommendations. The Lo-Fi Girl. Everyone knows and adores this image. Now, I was already aware of her presence at this time, having seen some memes and hearing a few miscellaneous lo-fi tracks upon researching various background music on YouTube. Her reputation was already pretty sizable, so when I first clicked on the stream, I immediately heard the auditory appeal, but I wasn't feeling the aesthetic, I'm not gonna lie. Going into the search page and looking up lo-fi, the second option was a chill hop stream about a raccoon chilling with their laptop in their bedroom. Nope, we're not doing this. Immediately after clicking, I finally understood the appeal. From then on out within that semester, I would always put on that stream before starting a task, working on essays, slideshows, even other videos for school, feeling an increased level of productivity when doing so. And I'm definitely not alone in that experience. The current appeal of lo-fi, at least in my age group, is usually attributed to ambient noise whilst completing tasks. With the rise of what I can only describe as romanticizing parts of our lives, study culture and lo-fi have somehow become synonymous with each other. The practice of using these off-kilter sounds as an aid to help complete tasks has all become a thing everyone's just accepted at one point or another, to my knowledge at least. I'm gonna assume you're aware of the repetitive progressions and patterns that help your mind not detach from the work you're focusing on. That being said, I also want to talk about another aspect I haven't seen too many people talk about: accessibility. Specifically referring to these types of streams on YouTube, anybody around the world can listen to a seemingly endless library of music at any time, 24/7. Not to say you can't listen to other music on YouTube, there is YouTube Music, but most don't wish to pay for any more streaming services than they need to, if any. And the amount of ads that can play for non-premium users can completely kill the vibe at the wrong time. With streams like these, you just look one up, click, maybe see an ad or two before seeing the live stream start, and boom, infinite lo-fi at your disposal, without having to even think about it. Within the eyes of most, this sounds like a net positive, right? A productive addition to your learning process without the need of fiddling with track choices or the fear of your brain getting distracted and losing focus. But what do the conversations of an enthusiast look like regarding lo-fi? Someone with more prior knowledge than most would care to know about music that isn't put on with much thought. From what I've been able to gather, the music you've heard on these streams may not be considered lo-fi. In fact, there doesn't even seem to be a common consensus on what should and shouldn't fit into the genre. Let me explain. So while doing research for this video, I came across a forum thread of a few people discussing the current state of the subgenre, and it articulates a few feelings I started to feel when recently getting back to listening to the music. If you listen to lo-fi for a while now, I want you to open up a new tab and pull up one of the 24/7 streams. Then go back and look at 2018, 2017, even a 2016 lo-fi compilation. Hearing the current stream, does the music sound more clear and involved in comparison? If the following answer is yes, apparently you aren't alone. There seems to have been a priority shift within the past half-decade on the quantity and, more importantly, the quality of instrumentation within these tracks. More emphasis on bass lines, saxophones, stepping just a little farther from the detuned filters artists attempted to emulate. For the purposes of this video, I'll mainly be referencing Chill Cow and Chill Hop, undoubtedly the biggest and most iconic lo-fi labels at the time of writing this. This genre-wide shift in direction, at least from what I've tried to understand, comes down to two factors: copyright and barrier of entry. Copyright has always been a stingy issue in media, but especially music. In fact, I can't make any money off my positive black media video if I get monetized because of this. All of the revenue will be sent to the guy that said, "I ain't playing games, lest we talking Fortnite." I'm sorry, man. Every time I hear that line, that Croc Gang video pops up in my head. I can't help it. I like Logic's newer stuff though. He's alright. There's a lot of complaints I can bring up on the logistics and actual practices of copyright regarding YouTube specifically, but one thing I can acknowledge is how established music rights are, at least in comparison to other mediums. While there's still legal discussion on approaching the rights of, say, AI generated images and other stuff, labels have those rules on lock. Doesn't mean I like or agree with many of these practices, but they at least know their capabilities. These lo-fi streams have always walked a thin line with legal limitations. Both channels became victims of copyright takedowns, more than once might I add. Chill Cow has been through the ringer, I'll tell you that much. Not only have they been falsely taken down twice now, but did you know that the origin of the iconic lo-fi girl came from copyright issues with Studio Ghibli because they originally used a gift from Whisper of the Heart? And not only did a similar situation happen with Chill Hop, but the official Twitter even recognized the gray area that comes with the business on YouTube back in 2018. After getting punished time and time again, yeah, I'd imagine anybody's approach to distributing their stuff would change after that frustrating cycle. The second factor would simply be the barrier of entry. When it comes to the passage of time, naturally technology will improve, bringing about more access to more people. I won't get into too much detail to save the nuance at this point for a future video, but the increase in individualism and incentivizing of commerce within the realm of art is concerning, I'll put it that way. Well, yes, I could in fact learn much more about theory and culture in order to make better art. I could also just make $5,000 a day with my lo-fi AI YouTube channel. The point is, the sheer amount of tutorials and tips based upon the framework of the genre being ambiance or an afterthought, in turn creates many producers making arguably low effort music. There's basically two sides to this. Either one, you think this lo-fi boom is not it, the succumbing to the copyright laws and increase of demand for background music has allowed for the genre to become unoriginal and safe, completely disregarding the innovative and risk-taking nature of hip-hop as a whole, or this could be seen as a positive, with the copyright laws pushing more legal limits on the music, the new wave of producers and artists are suddenly forced to think of more original progressions to stand out, or forage for royalty-free samples to take from, as well as using resources like YouTube tutorials. The shift towards more quality music merely signifies the changing times, without the need to emulate the older instrumentals of the 80s and early 90s, because we simply have much more to work with. While personally stuck in the middle of this specific conversation, I think we can all agree at least that these are the consequences for a popular genre becoming so accessible and widespread, no matter what side you're on.
I can't believe it! He forgot to include a hip-hop history class? How can anyone say they're hip-hop without knowing about the old school? It's a crime, I tell you! A crime!
Now, for the reason I made this video in the first place. A few months ago I came across this repost of a tweet claiming Nujabes pioneered the lo-fi genre, and I wish to make this clear right now. Absolutely not. This is not to disrespect the man and his influence, which I'll be getting into later, but this is just false. Like I mentioned earlier, the conversation around the subgenre's origins and pioneers are a constant conundrum, down to deducing what actually meets its criteria. This is why proper musical analysis can be so difficult for many people, because compared to other art forms, music has arguably been around the longest. We've heard radio before most could own TVs, let alone go to a theater. So naturally the sheer amount of material can muddy up the criteria for a track fitting a genre. Specifically in this case, I'm not so sure about other genres. That being said, if we're talking about the influence sonically, between the two, it had to be Dilla. Dilla is praised for his influence across hip-hop as a whole, but specifically within lo-fi, I think his approach of drum patterns is what's always struck around when brought into the conversation. It's hard to describe, but at least in the earlier scene, Dilla's humanizing of drum machines continues to be a staple of the genre. However, that's definitely not to discredit Nujabes either. After listening to his solo projects, as well as a few tapes, the best way to describe Nujabes' production is compact but airy. His mixing is what sticks out to be the most, as at least with the vocal tracks off Metaphorical Music and Model Soul, the samples, drum loops, and lyrics all seem to be fighting for prominence. The track Feather immediately comes to mind for me. C-Star sounds normal at the beginning, but then the drums come in, and the loop is at a volume louder than you were expecting, but it isn't intrusive, weirdly enough. And once the chorus comes through, everything meshes together. Especially in his instrumentals, the different instruments used all evoke that feeling of occupying room, while simultaneously giving the sense of space more room for interpretation. It's a very nuanced aspect of sequencing that I haven't seen too many people mention when talking about Nujabes. His cover artwork definitely fits the production. But why is this section focused on these two, and more importantly, what is the purpose of this video? Amongst all the topics I covered, to me at least, it comes down to variety, as I definitely think more could be covered in the subgenre drawing from some of the purest of traditions. Here's my proposition. For music that enthusiasts don't even have a consensus for, I think it'd be productive to start conversations that are more familiar, rather than focusing on the derivatives, essentially applying the general to specific concept. I know a lot of artists are aware of that, and I definitely think these two deserve more to have nuanced discussions about that isn't arguably about who started what. So, for example, we can talk about how Dilla and Nujabes' concept surrounding of music being the catalyst to their expansive reference points, with Dilla housing a collection and Nujabes even owning a record store. Or we can talk about their collaborative efforts with their respective groups, Dilla being a co-founder of Slum Village and Nujabes creating his own independent label, Hideout Productions, which I barely see discussed in depth within the lo-fi conversation, or at least in these YouTube videos. And if we want to go far enough, we could even talk about how these two unintentionally demonstrated the relationship and appreciation between Black and Asian culture within art and music, specifically Japanese in this case. All of these invite more to be said, delving into more topics I don't see many people discuss with these two, and just lo-fi in general. Hip-hop has been around for 50 years at this point, and the styles like the boom bap style have existed for arguably just as long. I think it's time that we bring light to more interesting topics, not just for the ones that paved the way, but also for the inspired producers or researchers or anybody that's just interested. Because at the end of the day, if lo-fi in this context really comes from hip-hop, really represents important parts of the culture, what exactly from the 50 years of lessons and experiences from the art form could not at least be brought up in these discussions? That's my question at least. So, considering some of the figures mentioned within the video, I didn't feel comfortable just ending the video off here. So I went ahead and compiled a quick list of those around Dilla and Nujabes' life that are still around doing stuff, mainly artists from their respective groups, and a few others. It's very common nowadays for an artist's name to get disrespected with legal rights from labels and stuff, and while I personally haven't come across any situation that affected these two, I just wanted to make the list in case I happen to miss anything. Other than that, that's pretty much it.
Hey bro, check out your YouTube channel.
Let's get it! Woo!
There is so much I could say, and there's a lot for the Q&A video, I'll say that right now, but to start, thank you. Going from where I was to being here now in a short amount of time is unreal to me. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Hopefully we can build a solid and tight-knit community here. And to see the support and comments off this black hair video, it's definitely possible. So glad that I now have almost 5,000 subscribers. That still feels weird to say. This video was supposed to come out in October, but I'm a student first. It is what it is. Follow me on all my social medias, link in description. Okay, alright. I think that's really it. Okay. Bye.